Hey everybody, Catherine Ray here at the 10-Minute Book Talk, and we are so happy you're here because we have something super special. I am here with my co-hosts Rachel Linden and Marie Bostwick and Joy Callaway. So today we're
Yay!
talking about a new novel she has out, or yeah, and we absolutely loved it. And Joy, could you hold it up?
Yes, absolutely. The
The
Star of Camp
Star of
Green.
Camp
Yeah,
Green.
Love
and
that
tell us a
cover.
little bit about your new story.
Yes, so it is set in 1918. It's set at an army training camp during World War One here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it follows the story of a Broadway star who's sort of like the Taylor Swift of her era. And she ends up performing at Camp Green, coming down with Spanish flu. And as she's recuperating, she overhears an army secret that keeps her stuck at Camp Green for the remainder of the war. And that is the last place she wants to be. She really wants to be at the front, entertaining the troops there in honor of her fallen fiance, who she lost early in the war. So that's the elevator pitch for that one.
Okay, so
Very
Wow.
you're
intriguing
packed in. I
premise.
mean, there's like
Hearing a secret
no,
getting trapped. I mean, whew.
Yeah, what's not
I
to
know,
love?
and a Broadway star. I love this. Okay, so you have packed in a lot of things, but the things that are really standing out to me are, we've had tons of World War II fiction, which is wonderful. We've had amazing stories, but you're hitting on World War One, which is less talked about, and the Spanish flu. You're hitting upon like some of the biggest events of the early 20th century, and you're combining them in this story. What made you be like, I want to write a story about a girl trapped in an army base with the Spanish flu in World War One?
Well, it started a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago. I was on a panel discussion with two other local Charlotte authors, and one of them had written a book called Secret Charlotte. And I'm a native Charlottean, and I was reading through the Secret Charlotte book and amazed at how much I really didn't know about my hometown, including that we'd had a World War One Army training camp here, and that it had doubled the size of the town back in 1918. And there's really nothing
Oh,
left of it. And so that was really compelling and interesting to me. And I also didn't realize that the Army was pretty much non-existent back then. There were 133,000 soldiers going into World War One, and after World War One, there were 3 million that served. So America, the way they kind of trained everybody up was to develop these army training camps across the country. And so I just found it very, very interesting. I love home front stories. I love, the finding out what was happening here where we live. And so that was just really interesting to me. And of course, Spanish flu, when you do research in World War One era, it just comes up. And so it was
hmm.
fascinating to learn about kind of how the city reacted to that. And then also how similar COVID was to the way,
Mm,
they handled Spanish flu.
yeah, yeah. Well, and then another
Goodness.
thing, so I'm so interested in this because I'm used to thinking USO and entertaining the troops, World War II, but I don't think of
Yep.
it as World War One. So tell me, was that really a thing, and how did your research work on that?
Well, interestingly enough, the my main character, Calla Connolly, is inspired by a real person named Elsie Janis. And Elsie was a Broadway star back in World War One. And like my main character, Calla, she was performing in London on the stage there and engaged to her co-star when World War One broke out. And her fiance passed away very early on in the war. And she came back to New York and kind of
Oh,
threw herself on stage. And when
Mm.
America entered the war, she asked General Pershing if she could go entertain the troops over at the front because that was something she and her fiance had wanted to do together. And he says, "No,
Mm.
you can go toward the American Army training camps though, and see if that goes well. Then we will, revisit this another time and see if we can send you to the front after all." And Elsie's story is fascinating, and actually, she eventually did make it to the front, and she actually performed there for a few years on her own dime with her mom. She would perform sometimes only a couple miles away from the front lines. And she was not, I've read her journals, she wasn't scared at all about being there. She just felt it was her duty. And so she was kind of the darling of the American Armed Forces. And when World War One ended, America basically decided as we entered the next war that that was necessary and developed the USO based on her tours.
That's
Oh my goodness.
oh
fascinating.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
that is
That's
so cool.
fascinating.
Okay, now
That's
you have to
super
write a
cool.
sequel though. You got
What
a
Yeah.
about her?
sequel,
We
the
need a
development of the
biopic of
USO.
her.
Yep, and that's the thing that was
Wow.
funny. I started out writing about her and then writing a biographical piece, but she kept getting stuck at Camp Green and getting Spanish flu. And Elsie Janis didn't get stuck at Camp Green and have Spanish flu. So that was where we deviated. But there's a lot of inspiration from Elsie Janis's real life tour in the book. So it was fun to write.
Oh, I love
That is
that.
really
Fascinating.
interesting.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
this sounds amazing. So hold up your book again because I want everyone to see it. It is the Star of Camp
Star
Green.
of Camp
Everybody
Green.
go out, grab yourself a copy. It sounds amazing. But I've got
Thank you.
one more question for you, Joy. We
Yes.
always ask, what is bringing you joy today?
Well, I'm in a unique position this summer because I actually have 2 books out. So The Star of Camp Green came out in May. And then next week, next Tuesday, my debut contemporary rom-com, Sing Me Home to
No
Carolina,
way, it's a
comes
rom-com?
out. It is, yeah.
I love rom-coms.
Oh, wait, hold it up
You
again.
could have
Hold it
been
up
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Okay,
So
Sing Me Home to
cute.
Carolina. Oh, I
Oh,
love the
that's
cover.
darling.
Thank you. Isn't
Okay,
it?
so
I
And I
just
love
want to jump
rom-coms.
into it. It's so pretty.
Yes, I want to
Um,
dance in the barn. So tell us about what that's about.
So this one is way different from what I normally write, which was really fun. I think as authors, why not try something new every now and then? This book is, I call it a Schitt's Creek meets Heart of Dixie meets Nashville mashup.
That's a
it
good
is
one.
Sign
about
me up.
it is about an event planner, and she's, coming. She has to come home for a little bit to help her parents, who are farmers. Their historic peanut farm, which was established by the founder of the town, who was a '40s singer with Nat King Cole. Actually, he played the guitar with Nat King Cole. He founded the town, and it was supposed to originally be like a kind of a Camp David for musicians. And turns out it ended up being a farming town, which was great at the time, but her parents' farm can't produce anymore. And so she's coming home to try to help them figure out their next act. And while she's there, she stumbles into running what the locals are calling the next Bluebird Cafe, which, are y'all familiar with that? It is basically where in Nashville, a lot of a rising talent is kind of discovered.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
my main character, Hattie, her barn ends up being a place where people tend to get discovered. And she doesn't intend to set out to let her barn, be that place, but that's what it is. But all the while, of course, she's navigating the competing affections of her first love, who's back in town. He was a former MLB All-Star, and he has a career-ending injury and comes back. And then the mysterious owner of the local hardware store. So they're,
Oh my.
it's a little bit of a love triangle.
Love
But I
it.
love stories that make you laugh and that also endear you to the characters. So it's definitely like a dramedy, I would say. But it's got that music element, and also just you're gonna encounter some really funny things going on in town because, of course, with a small town, you gotta have quirky people because that's what small towns are for, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Love
Okay, before we
it. Sign
go,
me up.
hold up both books
2
again.
books.
2 books,
Sorry, I
everybody.
have one.
Look at
You've got Sing
There's
Me
one.
Home to Carolina
And there's
and
the other one.
Star of
Wow.
Camp Green. Very different
Yay.
stories. Both
Congratulations.
sound extraordinary. We hope you will grab both, enjoy them, and enjoy in this incredibly busy season. Thank you for being with us
Yeah.
today.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a great time.
So glad. And everybody watching, come back next week for more 10-minute book talk fun. Thanks.
See you then.